My guest today, you may not know him personally, but if you're a fan of Pokemon, you definitely know his work. He's in charge of the #1 Pokemon fan site and online Pokemon database in the world. With the launch of Pokemon Black and White approaching on March 4th in Europe, where my interviewee is, and March 6th in the United States, we look to find out more about him as well as the world of Pokemon. Introducing the webmaster of Serebii, Joe Merrick. Welcome.
Hello.
Alright, so before we talk about Pokemon, let's get to know you a little bit better and the website. So, when did you first discover Pokemon, and what were your first experiences like with the game?
Well, I really first discovered it at school. A friend had brought Pokemon Red back from America, and he'd brought it into school and let me have a go, and I just loved it, and I was intrigued by it, so I eventually imported it because it wasn't out here yet. And that was, 1999. That was ages ago.
It was. The series has really evolved since then.
Yeah. Incredibly so.
And what inspired you to start up Serebii.net?
Well, really, it was just something to do during the rainy days at lunchtimes at school. And it just progressed from there and just got bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's really cool. And why did you name your website Serebii.net? And for those of you who don't know, Serebii is the Japanese name for the Pokemon most of us know as Celebi.
Well, back then, you know, as a 13-year-old starting a website, it's like, oh, what should I use? And a mystical Pokemon of Celebi, but that obviously didn't have the US name then, and it was just announced then when I started it up. So it just naturally fit. It's like back in 1999, there are all these websites like Muse Cavern and Muse Labyrinth and things like that, so it just made sense in a weird way.
You just kind of wanted to get on that bandwagon, I guess?
Yeah, pretty much. And it was kind of like a lack of imagination. I mean, when it first started, it was Serebii's Pokemon page. Yeah. That's
really interesting. And how many hours do you devote to Serebii per week?
Oh, it varies. Sometimes it's just a few hours, or when games come out, like with Pokemon Black and White, I devoted all of my time to it. I remember from Friday, September 17th, I went from about 10 o'clock to midnight on the Saturday 18th/Sunday 19th, just doing it.
Wow, that's real dedication.
It is, and it kind of screwed up with my sleep pattern for a while.
But do you have fun doing it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And what would you say is the hardest part about being in charge of the site?
Well, probably the game coverage as well, because the Pokemon news environment is just so incredibly competitive. I mean, the other sites, they jump at a chance to get stuff first. And with the game coverage, everyone's scrambling for the new information, especially when it's a new generation. They just want all of the Pokemon details then and there. And so that can get pretty stressful, pretty hard. But it's worth it.
Yeah, I could definitely understand that. And so many people look at your website, and it's just such a great place for coverage. And have you received any sort of special recognition from Game Freak or Nintendo? I know you, along with a bunch of other Pokemon fans, had a bad run-in with them in September, but other than that, have the companies that make the game been nice to you?
Well, they're always nice to me. I mean, I haven't really had official contact with them, but, well, they let me do what I do. Although there is the fact that in the two movies, the antagonist is always choking a Celebi, and I just can't help but think whether that's premeditated or not.
Yeah, who knows? Maybe it's possible.
Yeah.
And you've been in charge of the site for so long. What have been some of your proudest achievements on Serebii?
Oh, that's hard to say. Basically, the game coverage for databases. I mean, like the PokeEarth database, that's like the location decks. And that was just so much work and so many people appreciate it, and I'm so glad that I did it.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate it too. Any other proud achievements, or it's just kind of just, you're just so proud of the evolution of the site, where it's gone?
Yeah, and it's also spread out and given me opportunities. Like in 2004, I wrote a 9-page preview for Pokemon Emerald for the official Nintendo magazine over here. So it's given me opportunities away from the site.
Oh wow, that's impressive. And that actually transitions to my next question. Do you have any other hobbies or jobs aside from Serebii and whatnot?
Well, I do some freelance web stuff here and there, and hobbies got the games and just normal stuff, really.
That's cool. And Pokemon is an amazing game, and I can even understand it's such a time-consuming game where you can just pretty much play that and be satisfied. But do you play any other games aside from Pokemon?
Oh yeah, loads. I mean, Mario games are always classic. Zelda, Halo, the Mass Effect. That's a good game series.
Oh yeah, I just finished Mass Effect 2 myself, so that is an amazing game.
I have such an eclectic game taste. I mean, sometimes it's really simple stuff like Pokemon Channel and Pokepark. And sometimes it's really hardcore stuff like Halo and Burnout, stuff like that.
So I'm guessing you also have maybe an Xbox 360, PlayStation 3.
Yeah, I've got all of the consoles.
It's awesome. Do you have any favorite games on Xbox 360 in general?
Well, I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed recently, especially Assassin's Creed Brotherhood and the multiplayer.
Oh yeah, the multiplayer is a lot of fun.
Yeah, even though it can get really annoying at times.
Yeah, I can understand that. And you said you played Mass Effect. Did you play Mass Effect 2?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, how'd you like that?
I really loved it. Loved how you could change whatever you want with the ending. But just selecting where everyone goes, how it's going to transition over to Mass Effect 3. I just love that games do that these days.
I know, it's amazing. Although the end of Mass Effect 2 for me was kind of a sad one, but I mean, hopefully it'll transition okay into Mass Effect 3. And now that we've gotten to know you, let's transition a little bit. Now let's talk about the next big games in the Pokemon franchise, Pokemon Black or White. So, without spoiling too much, what have been your impressions of Pokemon Black and White so far?
Well, I think that they're actually the best Pokemon games ever to have been made. And really, they've evolved it so much. I mean, they're using for 3D, well, not 3D as in the 3DS, but 3D models to create cities. It's as if it is what people would have wanted for a home console game at times. If that makes sense.
You really think it's of the caliber of maybe what we would have seen if Pokemon came to something like the Nintendo 64 in 98 or 2000 or something like that?
Maybe a bit better, because I don't really think the Nintendo 64 could have handled some of the stuff like in Castelia City. I mean, you've got all the buildings. I mean, yeah, you could have simple buildings, but the way it all works and transitions and has bulk... I'm rambling a bit.
That's alright.
But yeah, it's definitely the best one.
Definitely the best one. And one of the things I really like about Black and White is that for the first time...
Hello everyone, welcome back to my Pokemon White walkthrough. Today we are in the Tower of Heavens, looking for the gym leader of Fukiosa City, so we can get our badge and keep going.
What are your thoughts?
These people are mourning their dead
Pokemon
because
love that
apparently,
whole
guess
concept.
what?
I mean, originally
you can
back
actually
in
kill
2003
Pokemon
when Ruby and Sapphire
know.
came out, I wasn't
Because
really
they just
fan
tired
of
of
the fact that
battling
you
or
can
something.
transfer
Not
any
really
of the
sure,
Pokemon
but
Gold, Silver and
they
Crystal
wear
to
out and
Ruby and Sapphire,
not just get...
because they were trying to go with the sort of reboot thing that they're going with now. But this time they've done it so extraordinarily well, and they've brought in compatibility with the past games. It's beautiful, to put it mildly. And it also helps entice new gamers to come in without having to have all the baggage of having Zubats and Geodudes everywhere.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was kind of annoying, you know, if you're going through, you know, supposedly what is a sequel and you're seeing Pidgeys and Zubats again, it's kind of, you know, isn't this exactly what I saw? Now it's kind of just discovering all these new Pokemon and what they're capable of, and it's almost like everyone's starting over from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely.
And speaking of the new Pokemon, do you like any of them in particular?
Oh, well, that's actually a really hard thing for me to say, because there are so many good ones. I just can't pinpoint my favourites. I mean, a lot of people say that the designs are so different, they look like Digimon and stuff like that, which kind of makes me facepalm. Because the designs are so original, and like there's one called Golurk, which was actually created by an American hired for Game Freak. And its design, and I mean, it's a ground slash ghost type, and it can fly using rockets out of its feet. I mean, come on, it's not, you don't get that before, and when the epitome of Pokemon was Seal.
It's true. I mean, there's already so many Pokemon. There's over 500. You're going to have to, they're not all going to look so super crazy. People are going to say, oh, they're starting to run out of ideas. They're looking like Digimon or whatnot. But, in the end, they are Pokemon. And do you think they're all kind of unique, or do you think some of them are more similar towards Pokemon we've already seen in the past?
Most of them are pretty unique. I mean, there are a few similar ones, like Buffalant, which some people say looks too much like a Tauros, or Pidove, which looks like a Pidgey or a Starly. But most of them are really imaginative and really cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. And do you have any favorite locations in Black and White? There are definitely the Unova region's full of so many cities and places. Do you have any favorites?
Well, there's obviously Castelia City because of how it looks, and it uses the 3D engine so brilliantly and so well. But, well, most of the areas are just so well designed, and they use the DS's graphics so well. I mean, you wouldn't have thought it were possible, even considering the fact they're still using sprites in some bits.
Yeah, no, do you think they should have gone with full 3D models for this game, or do you think the sprites were the right move?
I definitely think that the sprites were the right move. I mean, with the DS, if doing 3D models, let's say 3D models for all 649 Pokemon, then you have to factor in the shiny Pokemon and the gender difference Pokemon. That's over 2,000 models which you'd need to do, and that's excluding all the backgrounds and all the in-game stuff where you're walking about. It would just not... The DS couldn't handle it. I don't even think the 3DS could handle it.
You don't think so?
I mean, they probably could make it handle it, but I don't think it would be the most amazing graphics.
Yeah.
I mean, if they are going to go with 3D models, I'd rather they go with beauty models than ones which they have to compromise on.
Yeah, I agree with that. And speaking of 3DS, do you think that Nintendo should have maybe waited and took in more time on Black and White and then release it on 3DS rather than release it so late within the DS's life cycle, especially internationally where it's only a 3-week difference?
I had thought that at one point, but really, I mean, from a business standpoint, it's a very logical thing to do, because they could market the games as saying being also playable on the 3DS, and it still has the 170 million base of the DS users. So it's really a good idea, and they managed to use the DS's abilities so well.
Yeah, I heard it has some special capabilities with the DSi and some of the special features. What are some of the really cool features that Pokemon Black and White does that maybe no 3DS, or DS game rather, has done before?
Well, for the DSi, it really only has video chat on it, which is through the cross transceiver. I mean, you can't really do that on a DS, but...
Yeah.
But really, the bulk of the game is done so it can be played on the DS, and there are no special areas which are DSi only.
Yeah, that sounds right. I wouldn't like that if they kind of excluded, because I have a DS Lite, and I think even though the DSi is a bit more power, the games aren't exactly using that, so...
No.
Yeah, it wouldn't make sense. And if there were anything you'd have to change about Pokemon Black and White, or anything you disliked, what would that be?
Well, that's a bit hard to say. I mean, what I would have really liked, which is a bit disappointing that they didn't include, is rematches with the gym leaders. I mean, without spoiling it too much, the first gym is perfect for implementing a triple battle in. I mean, triple battles being one of the new battle modes. And if they had done rematches, I could have seen them using the triple battle modes to a brilliant way, but they didn't really do that. But you never know, they might include that with the next game, if there is a next game.
Yeah, possibly. What are your thoughts on triple battles? Is it completely different than double battles in any way, or is it just kind of 3-on-3?
Well, it's more strategic, because if you've got a Pokemon at the side, it can only attack the Pokemon completely opposite it or diagonally. You won't be able to get the one on the complete other side unless it's using a few specific moves. So it requires a lot more strategy in where you place your Pokemon on the field. And it's given you an option so you can move the Pokemon should you choose to.
So you are allowed to switch the Pokemon's positions during battle?
Yeah, but for the triple battles, it does use up a turn.
Yeah, I could see that. Now, aside from Black and White, let's talk all things Pokemon now. So, Pokemon's taken place in many, there's many different regions the games have taken place in. Kanto, Johto, Hoenn, Sinnoh, and Unova. What is your favorite region?
I'll have to say Unova. Because the style of everything is just so different in each area. I mean, in Kanto, everything's pretty much got the same locale. It looks pretty much the same wherever you go, just slight aesthetic differences. But here, every area is unique. And I just love that.
That's awesome. And what I've heard is that Unova's kind of the inspiration was behind it was based on New York City. I don't know how much you know about New York City, but would you consider that true?
Yes, I would, because it does match the geographical shape of Manhattan and the nearby islands. And Castelia City does look like the New York City skyline when you look at it, like on the artwork, which is currently on my site's banner. It does match New York City's skyline. It doesn't match it exactly, but it is reminiscent of it.
Oh wow, I really can't wait to get my hands on it because I live very close to New York City, so I know all about it. I kind of know, hopefully there'll be some good references and whatnot in there.
Fingers crossed. Well, I've not played the English game, so I'm not entirely sure how they'd handle the references in it. But really, they don't really often reference things properly. It's really tricky to get it based on the size of New York City and the size of the region.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, normally the game's regions like Kanto is based on Kanto in Japan, and that's a big region of Japan. But here they're basing it on New York City, and that's a considerable bit smaller compared to the other areas which the games are based on. So they had to make compromises where it had to be.
Yep. And there's already been so many Pokemon games and so many ideas have been done, but what do you want to see in the next main Pokemon series of games? Do you want, is there anything that you've had in mind for years that hasn't been done before, or anything you'd like to see added in the next games?
Oh, that's really hard to answer. I mean, I would have said that it would be nice for more of a narrative in it, but they've added that with Black and White. I mean, there's not that much they could add from what I can think of. I mean, more online and social aspects would be good, because Pokemon's always spearheaded that. I mean, it brought the link cable back from the dead with the Game Boy, and it brought Wi-Fi into the public domain more. But, I mean, some people would want a MMORPG. I mean, I don't really think that would work, but if they could implement some bits which you'd expect from an MMORPG into it, I think that'd be cool.
It's funny because that was actually my next question, because Pokemon, the one thing about Pokemon that's so great is that it's a very social game where you're always going to be battling other players and trading with other players, and it's all about not just catching all the Pokemon or battling and raising your Pokemon's levels, but it's also talking with other people who have the games and comparing your Pokemon with theirs, whether it's through battling or trading. And yeah, I would think a Pokemon MMO would be perfect, because it gives players, even if they are kind of boxed up in a room and don't really have anyone to play with, whether it's they don't have friend codes or whatnot, a Pokemon MMO would just bring everyone together. And you really think that wouldn't work?
Well, it might work if it's done brilliantly, but the problem is that with MMORPGs, there's a lot of grinding, and the narrative's not really as strong as it should be. I mean, at least in my experience. And Pokemon, even though it is a social aspect, it does need a narrative of sorts. I mean, just starting up as a certain class of trainer and going out and battling, I don't really think that it's in itself would work.
Yeah, I have to agree that MMOs don't usually have a narrative, but I would think of it maybe as a secondary game where you'd have the main game with the narrative and whatnot on the portable, whether that's a 3DS or whatever comes next, and then I don't know whether it would work. A Pokemon MMO would be compatible with Wii or would work with it, but maybe the next generation of Nintendo consoles, you use the portable system, the 3DS, as a controller, and maybe import your Pokemon into the game, and it's kind of a separate quest or a separate online world.
Yeah, that could work in theory. I mean, if they were to do it, I'd prefer that they did something like that.
Speaking of new Pokemon games as well, an employee at Game Freak has recently said that there will be no Pokemon Gray version or any kind of newer installment of Black and White. Do you think this is a lie? Do you think they're working on it?
I think that was due to the fact that they were I think they're in London specifically, and they were there to promote Black and White, and really saying that there's going to be a third version, that's not exactly a good thing to do in a business. I mean, I don't know if there will be one, but it's really hard to say. I mean, normally when you've got the main games, you don't see anything for a third version until about 2 years afterwards, so it's way too early to tell.
Yeah, absolutely, and you're right about that. It would be bad business because everyone would just wait for the next one.
Exactly.
And of course, your website, aside from Pokemon video game coverage, also does coverage of the anime and the movies, and you do screen caps for them, you do very in-depth summaries, and do you have a favorite season or kind of a saga of the Pokemon TV series?
Well, like everyone else, I'm a bit nostalgic for the first series, but each series does tend to get better. I mean, the new series, Pokemon Black and White, with the past couple of series, people have always moaned that there's too many fillers. You know, where nothing happens, no captures, no evolutions, no introduction of characters which actually do anything in the entire saga. But with this one, it's pretty fast paced, and there's always something happening. It's always pushing forwards. And I really like that they're doing that. I mean, even the original saga was pretty much like that, with like an episode where they're just having a race with the Ponyta and Rapidash.
Yeah, there were. I mean, that was one of the problems I've always had with the Pokemon TV series, that they'd have a lot of these kind of filler episodes where, you know, it would be kind of interesting, but then again, it doesn't do anything to forward the story. So far, I've seen a few episodes of Black and White here and there, but I have to say, one of the things that I really like about it as well is that they're kind of positioning Ash as towards this beginner again, almost like they're trying to refresh the entire series.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting.
I mean, they've managed to do that pretty well, and allowed him to also keep the strategy and his knowledge from the previous sagas as well. I mean, in the last saga, they had to make Ash lose to a trainer with legendary Pokemon, because otherwise they had to put themselves in a corner, because Ash has become a competent trainer.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that's always bugged me about the series is that, you know, this Ash's Pikachu is probably at a very high level and whatnot. Like, I feel like the games and the TV show don't work the same way, where Pikachu, you know, if he's battling a level 5 Snivy in the first episode of Pokemon Black and White, he should have hit it in, you know, one shot and whatnot. You know, like, no competition, Pikachu should have won, but it lost. So, what are your opinions on that?
Well, really, in the episode, it's understandable that it lost because it just been hit by a massive bolt of lightning from a Zekrom.
Yeah, that's true.
But really, I mean, that happened with the Sinnoh saga as well. I mean, it managed to defeat a Regice and then lost to an Elekid when the saga started. But I guess it's what they do because the anime does refresh every 4 years, and they need to do it so they're not overpowered. I mean, a show about an overpowered protagonist would get really boring really quickly.
Yeah, it's kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh, where the main characters win every single time, and it's expected that he wins. And there might have been only 1 or 2 times in this series where he lost. I mean, it's kind of like that, where I agree, it totally gets boring. And every year they release a new Pokemon movie. Do you have a favorite Pokemon movie?
Well, the Serebii ones.
So that would be Pokemon Forever, and then the one that just came out with Zoroark, I would guess.
Yeah, but I still love the Mewtwo one and the Lugia one. They're pretty awesome.
Oh yeah, those two are classics. And also, I was very kind of surprised to see this, that they're kind of doing a double feature this year, where there's going to be 2 movies coming out.
Yeah, I'm really intrigued about how they're doing that, because they haven't announced whether it'll be a movie and a movie shown together, or whether you choose to see one of the movies. I'm pretty sure, well, I'm not pretty sure, I'm just very eager to see how they're doing it. But the problem is, But from what we've seen from the summary, their films take the same route, the same sort of plot until a point where they diverge. So the question which will probably fill the forums of the entire internet for the next few years is which one is the one which happened.
Yeah, that's true. It's not giving fans exactly a definite plot. There's two different alternatives, but I think it's interesting. And one disappointing thing, like in Japan, it's very popular, it's in theaters, but in America, and I'm guess maybe Europe, probably Europe as well, it's not in the theaters anymore because it's just not profitable if you put it in the cinema. Do you think eventually Pokemon may come back to the movie theaters, especially, like, I'm not saying they would do this, but if they ever did a Pokemon movie in 3D or something?
I don't know. I don't think it would. I mean, as much as I love Pokemon, it has lost its fad status. I mean, while the games are selling better than they ever have, the TV show and the cards, they're not selling as well as they used to do. So, really, it just wouldn't happen unless it became a fad again. I mean, some fads do come back, like the Yo-Yo and the Rubik's Cube. They've come back about 5 times since they were created.
Absolutely. I really hope to see Pokemon again in the theaters, but then again, it's probably not going to happen. I might have to fly to Japan in order to see that, but I won't be able to understand the movies. Aside from all of the Pokemon main games, the RPGs, there have been many Pokemon spin-off games like Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Pinball, Pokemon Channel, Pokepark. There's just been so many. Do you have any favorites?
I'm quite fond of the Pokemon Ranger spin-off series. They're constantly getting better. The first one was alright, second one was pretty damn good, and the latest one is amazing. But I really loved them all, except for the Mystery Dungeon series. Not really a fan of that one.
Yeah, that one was okay. I did play the first Pokemon Ranger. The main reason I actually got that one is because if you beat it, you got to transfer a Manaphy egg to Diamond or Pearl.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's what I'm thinking maybe they should do with the future of these spin-offs is incorporate legendary Pokemon or exclusive Pokemon within them, because it definitely is a reason to buy them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm hoping they'd do that with the upcoming game, Pokemon Typing DS. I mean, really, very few people are going to be interested in that game, and I think that if they include these Pokemon in it, then it would encourage people to purchase it. Really, I'm looking forward to that game. Don't care what anyone else says. I think it's going to be good.
Yeah, it looks to be fun and educational.
Yeah, can't beat that.
And there's just been so many Pokemon spin-offs. Some of them have come out 10 years ago, and some people have been hoping for sequels to some of them. Are you hoping to see any more sequels to Pokemon, any of the Pokemon spin-offs, especially some of the ones that came out a long time ago?
I don't really see that happening as much as I'd like to see a new Pokemon Snap with the new Pokemon. I just don't really think it's probable. I mean, the Pokemon Ranger series and the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series, I can see them getting more installments. But really what I want to see more are new spin-off games based on new ideas. I mean, like Pokemon Trozzy or Pokemon Link, depending on where you are. That was a good twist on the puzzle series. I mean, we had Puzzle Challenge and Puzzle League on the Game Boy Color and N64, respectively. I mean, but they're both based upon the Panel de Pon sort of puzzle, and this was a completely different style, so I enjoyed that.
So really, because the one Pokemon spin-off I was hoping to see a sequel for was Pokemon Snap, and I know so many people who are just dying for it, because it's not only just an amazing game, and it impressed critics, it impressed fans and it definitely beat all odds. People had very low expectations for it. And it's one of those games that definitely appeals to both hardcore and casual crowds, and it's an easy seller for Nintendo. Why do you think they haven't kind of recycled some of the old series like Pokemon Snap? They did a Pokemon Pinball for the Game Boy Advance, which was good, but you'd think that, these series are selling so well, they just kind of want to bring them back over and over again.
Well, I'm really not sure. I mean, the only thing I can think of is that they don't want it to stagnate and they don't want to keep repeating the same ideas. I mean, with Pokemon Snap, yeah, it's brilliant, but if they just kept releasing ones with new Pokemon in, it'd get a bit boring and the novelty of it would be lost if they continued to do it over and over.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can't just ride these franchises down to the ground. I mean, look what happened recently to Guitar Hero, where they kept releasing one new game every single year, and they just kept running out of ideas. It just didn't feel special anymore. People were getting tired of it, so they had to scrap it. All right, and one final question. There are many people in the world who say that Pokemon is for kids, and many people have really insulted the franchise without giving it a real chance. What are your words to them?
Well, to shut up, really. Really, the Pokemon games, I mean, on the surface, yeah, kids can play them, but when you delve into the deep mechanics of it, it's stuff that kids wouldn't really get. I mean, if you give a kid a Charizard, they'd just give it Flamethrower, Fire Blast, maybe Fly, and that's it. And maybe Ember. But really, other trainers, people who more focus on the core mechanics, they'd give it a range of moves, like maybe make it I think it's a physical Pokemon, so give it a physical sweeper set. I mean, Pokemon is deceptively hard. The reason that people think it is because of the TV show and because a lot of the merchandise when Pokemon was a massive fad was aimed at kids.
Yeah, I mean, it was aimed at kids as a fad, but there are so many, people who've grown up with it, and even Heart Gold and Soul Silver actually helped the series by helping older people kind of rediscover Pokemon all over again.
Yeah.
And how can people contact you if they want to get in touch?
Well, my email is on the site, and I try to respond to every email I get. So that's always a good thing. And there's always my forums or my chat room, but I'm not really on the chat room or forums too much.
Right, that's awesome. I want to thank you for coming and doing the interview. You can check out Joe's site at serebii.net. I'm pretty sure you've probably heard of it if you love Pokemon, but if you're interested in Pokemon or you've never heard of the site, you should definitely check it out. Thanks for joining us.
No problem. Thank you.